Glad to have you join me on today's episode of Housing Development, the only TV program that advocates for the provision of affordable housing to Nigerians. Housing is one of the basic needs of men in all ramifications. Housing is more than shelter, embracing all social services and utilities that go to make for habitable environment. Section 16 of the 1999 Constitution, under the fundamental objective of state policy, reinforced the importance of housing by compelling the Nigerian state to provide suitable and adequate shelter for all citizens. Attaining such lofty heights or meeting adequately the demand remains a major challenge for Nigeria, just like other countries in sub-Saharan Africa. Today on the program, we'll get to know how the Republic of Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo was able to tackle their housing issues. My spotlight will also be on slum settlement in Nigeria. As always, I am your housing diva, Flora. Let's bring you up to speed on the happenings in the housing sector.
For Lagos residents and Nigerians at large to get more benefits from owning land, the government needs to decentralize land administration and management, experts have said. The experts noted that the level of poverty in the country would continue to grow if proper land management that could promote investment and wealth for landowners was not put in place. The Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, NITP, has elevated 77 town planners to fellowship position. Speaking at the investiture of the new fellows held over the weekend in Abuja, Chairman NITP Fellows Selection Committee, Donatus Obialo, said, as senior planners, they should show exemplary integrity and live above board in practice and in all aspects of life. The stark reality of the harsh economic situation is leading to an upsurge of Nigerians moving to uncompleted buildings in major towns and on the outskirts, leaving some of the homeowners with sad tales. However, the trend is growing spontaneously as housing has remained a major challenge in the cities due to shortage of residential accommodation. Global experts have enjoined African governments to review their national urban policies to address structural impediments and lay the foundations for inclusive urban expansion. They pinpointed out that 18 NUPs drafted in sub-Saharan Africa, including Nigeria, are full of the standard policy jargon. The technical capabilities, legal frameworks, financial instruments, and political will to deliver on these complex policies appear to be lacking. However, progress in implementing them has been slow, suggesting political and administrative disincentives for devolving budgets and power.
You can read the full details of the news flash on housingnews.org.ng. The groundbreaking ceremony for construction of new housing scheme for workers has kicked off in some states, including Nasarawa, Abia, Akwa Ibom, and Enugu State. Let's take a listen to the managing director of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria as he speaks on FMBN activities in providing affordable houses for Nigerian workers.
Well, I'm Architect Ahmed Bengiwa, MD Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. So far, we have done a lot of achievements in terms of construction finance, in terms of mortgage creations, and in terms of stakeholder engagements. That activity centers on the stakeholder engagement, which we have commenced with the Nigerian Labour Congress, Trade Union Congress, and the NECA, which is Nigerian Press Constitutive Association, towards creating affordable housing for Nigerian workers, which an MOU was signed between us, to which due to our collaboration, they want to increase the housing stock in the country and create more mortgages for the Nigerian workers who are contributors to the National Housing Fund. Towards that, 100 houses are being constructed across the country. We have taken 200 houses in 6 geopolitical zones, two in each geopolitical zone, plus Abuja and Lagos. That's 14 sites. So within the next 6 months, we are going to roll out at least 1,400 houses. Those houses under construction, they are going to be mortgaged to Nigerian workers who are contributors to the Nigerian Housing Fund. The houses are meant to be affordable in such a way that the Nigerian worker can afford to have those houses, and they are going to be mortgaged immediately.
My name is Oniye Chono. I am the first Vice President of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Education. I've been watching this program. Housing Development Program is the flagship program really on TV that focuses on the environment, the built environment, housing, construction, and we want you to keep the job up. We are helping to propagate all the values that we want to bring to address housing and construction issues in the country, and I fully endorse this program.
Still on the provision of affordable housing, the right to housing as defined by international law is basic human need which allows us to subsist. Good housing contributes to the well-being of families and to a country's broader economic and social development. At the just concluded African Union for Housing Finance 34th Annual Conference held in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, I spoke with some delegates. Take a listen as they speak on how Nigeria can tackle the housing challenges facing the country.
19 million is a very large shortage. But when it comes to a shortage of affordable housing, it generally means there is a shortage of housing, because the two markets of housing and affordable housing are substitutes for one another. It is important that the Nigerian government look at the ecosystem and look at the items, the individual items in the ecosystem that make it difficult for producers of housing to actually produce housing. So we look at different items of the housing value chain, starting from land, going through the financing, and finally the production and the takeoff. So I have not recently studied the Nigerian context, but I can tell you more about the context of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which we have studied recently. And there are lots of challenges. Some of them relate to land, some of them relate to urban planning, lots of them relate to financing, especially on the demand side, on the household side. Housing is a priority for many governments.
Well, as an NGO that focuses on different aspects like advocacy and lobbying, community empowerment, research and documentation, some of our achievements have been first and foremost influencing policy, where we've been able to influence the national housing policy, and it is in place, and it actually has recommendations that were developed by us and they've been taken up. And then second of all, we have been able to demonstrate affordable housing in Uganda. We've been able to work with communities to save up, buy land, and construct their houses. So we have been investing in cooperative housing as an initiative that helps communities to self-build, to do their own initiatives rather than sitting and waiting for funds and financing from elsewhere. So the communities are taking back their initiatives, they're taking lead in their development, and they're building their houses. The issue about cooperatives, about housing cooperatives, is first and foremost, they're self-owned and self-managed. They have to have the initiative of mobilizing themselves, because when they're mobilized by different stakeholders, then it becomes difficult for them to be sustainable. So these community groups that are already doing something together are the ones that should be encouraged to mobilize housing cooperatives, start saving together, and then manage their finances to the point of where they start to construct houses. My advice would be to build strong community groups that are already self-motivated. They have the initiative in them rather than an outsider coming and building housing cooperatives and then giving them houses. That initiative has been a challenge for us, but we are seeing that more and more the community-led initiatives are thriving better.
Housing creates dignity, and people feel secure when they feel that their home essentially represents that security. And if the president, which presidential candidates are smart, which I'm sure they are, they would prioritize housing for the Nigerian population. Because when people feel good about where they live, so do their children. And when their outlook on life looks positive, that's conveyed as they grow up, which creates opportunity. So I think that prioritizing housing would be a formula for success, not just for the election, but for the people of Nigeria.
The low-income category seems to be the most hit in Nigerians' housing issues. For a Nigerian aspiring to build an affordable home with about 3 million naira, there are enough challenges to induce headaches, which either frustrate the ambition or force the project to be abandoned. These include access to finance, high cost of acquiring land, and its tenure issues, as Monia Tagma from Affordable Housing Institute mentioned. Now, Dorothy Baziwe, the Executive Director of Shelter and Settlement Alternative, says the best way to go is through cooperative housing. Housing for all is very crucial. I'll see you in a moment. You're watching Housing Development. It is no longer news that slums are now prevalent in major Nigerian cities. The lack of housing and rapid rate of urbanization has forced millions of people to build their own homes. These are typically on land they do not own and in an unhealthy environment. Should this slums area be demolished or upgraded? Let's find out from some professionals.
Is to embark on sustainable housing development, not only in cities but in rural areas, so that accommodation is provided for every category of Nigerian. Secondly, is to make job opportunities as well as social facilities available in rural areas, so that young people would stay in rural areas and give their contribution to the development of the nation. And when they happen to come into the cities, then they are accommodated in the type of residences they can afford based on the profiling of their status as well as their financial status.
One of the ways government can use to address the issue of slums is to embark on one, slum upgrading, or go to the root cause of creating the slums. Provide affordable housing and facilities for people in the rural area to discourage them from migrating to the urban centers. And where they've already migrated, government can embark on construction of affordable housing.
I think the best thing government can do is to go into 100% affordable housing, mass housing. And government, I believe, cannot do this alone. They need to partner with the private sector so that they will be able to build mass housing for the low income and the medium income earners in the country. That's the best way.
I believe the major reason, from my own perspective, is to seek for greener pasture. I would just advise if the government can make employment or youth employment program cut across the country, by that to reduce the influx or the drift or the migration of people into the city center, thereby stressing the facilities available in the city. And secondly, in case people are already in the city center, or the city center is witnessing high population growth rate, and the city is fast deteriorating. Another thing is that, of course, you can't chase people back to their village, but you can also make alternative housing, maybe kind of satellite housing where people can move to, like the suburb, like people like maybe Marabanya, or government can create social housing there so that people can move down there now to ease the stress and the pressure on the city center.
Slum development as a result of influx of population and inadequate planning. If the cities had been well planned in preparation for the influx, slum development would have been totally reduced. It may not be totally eradicated, but it may be reduced because of the cycle of growth of cities.
Well, my name is Architect Ahmed Dangiwa, Federal Mortgage Bank MD, and I want all Nigerians to be watching this program.
Now, how can formation of slums be prevented? Here are what some town planners are saying.
When the town planners will take up effectively their works as prescribed, when all the governments, from local government to the federal government, will not allow the village heads in the north, they call them menguas, to take over the function of town planners. That is making adequate provision, budgetary and otherwise, to make sure all that the town planner is supposed to do are done. Not waiting until a small slum has grown, then we go there with our red pens to mark. No, we should be proactive at all times. Put the plan, then put the development.
We can reduce slums in our environment when we have our plans. You know, when you have failed to plan, then you have planned to fail. You know, when towns and cities are not planned, then the ultimate effect is getting a slum. Each one begin to build at his own pace, the way you like. Then it becomes haphazard. Then slum emerges. So to now reduce slums, it means there must be order. You must obtain plan. First of all, there must be a master plan for the city, or a layout plan. And individuals, before you build, you must obtain your building plan approval. In that way, the town planners will be able to control and monitor the development in order not to degenerate into slums. So even the existing slums, it's still plannable. We can still achieve something in it.
The first thing we need to understand is that slums are part of our urbanization, and so we work with those in the slums to fix the problems of the slums, and then they can transit from being slums to being sustainable human settlements.
My name is Munia Tagma. I encourage you to watch Housing Development.
living conditions can be improved, and this goal can only be achieved through concerted effort of all involved stakeholders. One of the most effective ways to prevent the formation of slum is city planning. And one of the top priorities for the government is to devise strategies to provide affordable and adequate housing for all. This will go a long way in preventing the formation of slums. This is Housing Development. Stay tuned.
My name is Dorothy Baziwe, and I encourage you all to keep on watching the Housing Development Program.
Welcome back. Now this is a part where I give you good value for your money. For sale in Abuja is a 2-bedroom block of flats located at Arab Road in Kubwa Oasis. This 2-bedroom block of flats is fully completed with major amenities and facilities for comfort in place. For more details, call 081-665-70090. Urban Shelter Limited is up next. Stay tuned.
We all know home ownership in Nigeria can be particularly difficult for a number of reasons, and I won't go into it. But what we've done as a management team and as in part of Urban Shelter is to really sit down and think to ourselves, well, how do we facilitate that problem? Because it is essentially a challenge. And the most things is we realize a number of developers, you have to pay within 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. So we sat down to really think of a model that would suit. And as far as I know, Urban Shelter is the only company today. We introduced the 5-year repayment plan. This is not a mortgage. There are no interest charges. There are no hidden fees. We go through applications and we see clients that are eligible, and really you are entitled to get a 5-year payment plan on most of our projects. Now, we also sat down to say how else can we diversify this project, and we developed something called a stay and pay concept, where by the time you pay 2nd to 3rd year of your payment, we will actually allow you to move into your property and pay off the balance while you're enjoying that property with your family. Of course, there are terms and conditions, but again, we have found that this has added that flexibility in home ownership.
To subscribe to Urban Shelter Limited Housing Project, call the numbers on your TV screen. Thanks for watching. Remember, you can follow us on all our social media platforms for up-to-date housing information. And do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Housing TV Africa. I remain Flora, your housing diva. God bless our dear country, Nigeria.